We live in an age overflowing with information. And with so many information sources at our fingertips, knowing where to start, sorting through it all, and finding what we need and want can be overwhelming. This video tutorial will provide you with some answers to the following research-related questions. Where do I begin? Where should I look for this information? What types of sources are available? Just to name a few. This is Mrs. DeCret, your school librarian. I'm going to take a few moments today to review with you a research process that I think you're going to find is going to be really helpful for any school assignment you may have while you're here at Steamboat Springs High School. The Big Six is a process model of how people of all ages can solve information problems or explore a research topic. Successful information problem solving encompasses these 6 stages: task definition, information seeking strategies, location and access, use of information, synthesis, and evaluation. But before we go any further, be sure to have your research assignment on hand right next to you, a pen or a pencil, and some notebook paper. Now that you have paper in front of you, go ahead and fold it into thirds. You're going to use this to take some quick notes on this video tutorial. So step 1, in your 3-column notes, in the very first column, right at the top, task definition. So right now, I would take a minute and in that first column of your notes, define what is your information problem and what are some really good keywords that you can use in your research. You're going to revisit this throughout the process, but this is a good place to start. Define, what do you really need to do? What are you trying to do through your research? This is basically a fancy way of saying, what is it you're looking for? What are you trying to accomplish in your research? A lot of times students come in and they are given a topic that they're not really familiar with, so they just jump right in and start Googling the name or the topic that they've been given. While this is helpful for gathering background information and keywords about the topic, it's not really the type of in-depth research that we're hoping most students get to. Most of the time, the research that you'll be doing in high school will be taking background information and then taking a position or a stance on an issue. This is the part where you really have to understand the assignment your teacher has handed out. What is the task? What are they asking you to answer? Or what topics do you need to be familiar with? And what types of information will you need to answer those questions? Unless you're super familiar with the topic that you're working on, you should spend some time doing some basic research, getting some background knowledge out of a general encyclopedia or an online encyclopedia or even your textbook. This would be really helpful and can be considered your first source. So for instance, if my topic has something to do with civil rights and the influence that Martin Luther King's work had during that time period and also all the way to present day, I'm not interested really in where Martin Luther King was born or where he died. The information that I'm seeking is more about his legacy or the things that he accomplished. So be sure and refer to your research packet often. Your teacher put an overarching question that all projects need to address or answer. In addition, some other questions that you might put in your thesis. So step 2, in the middle column of your notes, go ahead and write at the top, information seeking strategies. This is where you decide what types of sources are going to be best for the project that you have at hand, and determine all those possible sources. So start off by brainstorming. Obviously, your teacher probably has already said you need to have so many websites or so many books. That's just kind of a blanket way for us to make sure that you look at a lot of sources, not just 1 or 2. A good place, like I mentioned before, to start would be to look in your school textbook. After you've gotten everything you can out of that, I would suggest moving on to other books and websites databases. Maybe you'll find a video in the library or online that's really helpful. Maybe you need to explore some magazines and newspaper articles. It depends on your topic, whether it's historical or scientific or a current event. So let's take a second to talk about different types of sources. There are three general types of sources: primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you say, oh, I've never heard of that before. Well, I bet you have. Primary sources, some examples of those would be biographical information or autobiographical information, cases, correspondence between people, so letters, descriptions or travel, diaries, fiction, interviews, personal narratives, poetry, short stories, and original pieces of art or music. Secondary sources tend to be the types of things that interpret those primary sources. So as an example, it would be a book describing something written by one or more people, describing a historical event. It could be an interpretation on a policy or a government document. It could be criticism or interpretation of a piece of literature. And lastly, tertiary sources. So this is your dictionary, your general encyclopedia, a table, an index, a guidebook, a directory or chronology, which is more or less a fancy word for timeline. Tertiary sources are sources that compile, analyze, and digest secondary sources. They tend to be factual. This is why they're not very interesting reading, but they are very plain examples of data or evidence of a historical event or information. Primary sources contain raw, original, non-interpreted information. At this point, go ahead and stop and look at your notes and make sure that you've thoroughly covered task definition and information-seeking strategies and sources. Go ahead and review those parts of the tutorial that you feel you need to. We are moving on to part 3 of our Big 6 skills. At the top of column 3 on your notes page, go ahead and write location and access. This is where you figure out how to locate the sources that you're looking for. And also, how do you locate the information you're looking for within them? Fiction is organized by author's last name. So, for instance, if you're reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, you would find it in the fiction section under Twain. Nonfiction is organized with the Dewey Decimal System. This is just a simple number system that the majority of libraries in the United States use. So every different type of topic is assigned a different number. For this research project, history is in the 900s. So this is a good area of the library to be aware of and to visit. Ready Reference is a section in the center of the library that has numerous sets of encyclopedias, dictionaries, foreign language dictionaries, atlases, and other specialized encyclopedias ready at your fingertips. In general, most of these are organized alphabetically. So if your topic starts with C for civil rights, or if it's Martin Luther King, King, K, the last name, that is the volume in which you would look in the encyclopedia. If you're unsure, or even to do more extensive research, use the index in the book or the set that you're looking at. That is the only way to ensure that you'll be getting access to all of the articles that relate to your topic. And lastly, we have periodicals. They're called periodicals because they come out periodically, whether it be once a week or daily or once a month. So these are magazines and newspapers. Mainly the ones that are on the shelf in the library are for browsing or looking at the daily news. When you want to do research utilizing magazines and newspapers, it's much more efficient and effective to get online on the computer and utilize a database. We'll get into that in more depth in a moment. That was a quick review of how you utilize the Merman catalog to find print resources. in our library system. If you request something that isn't within the four walls of our school, it automatically gets delivered to our school daily, and I would be sure and check the library circulation desk in the afternoon for your requests.